Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a really powerful strategy that's kind of quietly reshaping how the biggest AI companies are built. It's a playbook that totally embraces the messy, complex reality of big business to create an almost unbeatable advantage. All right, let's get into it.
And this quote, this is the perfect starting point. You know, when you hear that a company as big and as well known as Scale AI has a best kept secret, it makes you stop and think, right? Something really interesting must be going on just under the surface. So what exactly is this secret? So here's the plan. First, we're going to uncover that secret. Then we'll dig into the huge problem it solves for big companies. After that, we'll break down this forward-deployed playbook, meet the special teams that make it all happen, understand the brilliant strategy behind it, and finally, look at what this means for the new rules of tech.
Okay, so let's start with the company right at the center of this story, Scale AI. Now, most people think they know what Scale does, but it turns out that's only about half the picture. See, on one hand, you have the Scale AI everyone knows. They provide just massive amounts of high-quality data to train the world's most powerful AI models. But the secret, the other half of the business, is this applications group that's busy building custom, really high-impact AI agents directly for governments and Fortune 500 companies. And we're not talking about some small side project here. This enterprise business has absolutely exploded into a 9-figure powerhouse. And get this, most of that growth happened in just the last year to year and a half. That kind of insane growth tells you they have definitely tapped into a massive unmet need in the market. But what is that need?
Well, that brings us right to the core of the problem, what we're calling the enterprise AI dilemma. Every big company on the planet wants to use AI, but wanting to use it and actually getting it to work are two totally different things. So you have to ask, why is it so ridiculously hard? It's not because the AI models aren't good enough. I mean, after ChatGPT came out, every CEO saw the potential. The real problem, the real challenge, lies somewhere else entirely.
The problem is what you could call the implementation gap. It's all the messy real-world stuff, trying to integrate with clunky old legacy systems, dealing with super strict security and permission rules, and, the fact that every single large company has its own unique way of doing things, its own secret sauce that off-the-shelf software just can't handle. You can't just plug an AI in and expect it to work. It doesn't happen that way. So, how do you bridge that gap? This is where the real innovation is. It's a new model, one that was pioneered by companies like Palantir, and is now being perfected for this new age of AI. Let's call it the forward-deployed playbook. The idea is actually pretty simple, but it's also powerful. Instead of trying to sell a one-size-fits-all product, you send a team of your absolute best engineers and product managers to literally embed with the customer. They go in, they live and breathe the customer's problem, and then they build a completely custom, full-stack solution from scratch to solve it. Here's how the playbook works in practice. First, the team gets in there and embeds deeply, really living the customer's day-to-day problems. With that deep, first-hand knowledge, they build a totally custom solution from the ground up. And then, and this is the most critical part, they take all those learnings and platformize them, feeding them back into their core software to make it stronger and smarter for every single customer down the line. Now, this kind of intense, hands-on work, it requires a special kind of team. This is not your typical sales department. No, think of it more like a special ops force for enterprise AI. Let's break down these roles. You've got the forward-deployed product manager. They basically act as the chief AI product officer for the client, pushing them to think way bigger. Then there's the forward-deployed engineer. This is the builder, the one who handles everything from data integrations to the UI. And finally, the forward-deployed ML engineer. This is your specialist, totally focused on building and fine-tuning the core AI agents. Together, they are the AI A-team. Okay, so why would anyone operate this way? I mean, on the surface, a business model that's heavy on services looks expensive and low margin. That's usually a huge red flag in the software world. But that's because they aren't playing the short-term margin game. No, they are playing for something way, way bigger. This brings us to the core strategic trade-off. The cost? Yeah, you accept lower gross margins. It's not a pure software business. But the prize? The prize is a deep, durable, competitive moat. By embedding yourself so deeply with a customer, you create incredibly high switching costs. You capture unique data that no one else has, and you slowly become the essential system of intelligence that runs a critical part of their entire business. And you don't have to take my word for it.
This quote from the source material says it all. The willingness to sacrifice short-term margin to go in and own a critical workflow, that's the whole bet. That ownership is what leads to the most defensible, the most valuable businesses in the long run. So let's zoom out. What does all of this mean for the future? Well, this playbook is basically rewriting some of the old established rules for building a successful tech company. It all comes down to overcoming something Paul Graham called shle blindness. It's that natural instinct to avoid the boring, the tedious, the unglamorous, but absolutely essential work. In the AI era, the companies that win are the ones that embrace the shle. They don't just build the cool AI model, they roll up their sleeves and do the dirty work of data migrations and building dashboards to solve the entire problem for the customer, from start to finish. And here's a pretty provocative analogy from our source. Think about foundation models like they're Hollywood blockbusters. They take a massive upfront investment. They're a huge hit for maybe 18 months. And then the next, bigger, flashier blockbuster comes along. What that means is the model itself isn't a durable moat. The real lasting value is built by the people who integrate these models deep into the messy workflows of the real world. And that really leaves us with a final big question. In an age where new, more powerful AI models seem to pop up every few months, maybe the most valuable and the most defensible work of all isn't creating the model itself. Maybe it's doing the hard, unglamorous, dirty work of making that AI actually work in the real world. And that might just be Silicon Valley's best kept secret.